All right, buckle up. Because today we're taking a deep dive into a story that's been all over the news.
Go around about us on the internet. We've yet to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever. We have no criminal record anywhere on the planet ever.
How are you, Andrew?
Listen. We live in a democratic society where it's innocent until proven guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood. There's a lot of opinions about us, a lot of things that go around about us on the internet. We've yet to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever. We have no criminal record anywhere on the planet ever. Our case was dismissed on the 19th of December in Romania under the Biden administration. And our prosecutor recently decided, because we have no active indictment in court, to let us go and return. This is a democratic society. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, as my brother and I are. And I think it's extremely important that we stop allowing media spin, wrap-up smears, lies, or carefully constructed narratives from George Soros-funded operations trying to destroy the reputations of good people who have no intention to do anything other than follow the law.
After Romanian authorities lift their travel ban.
Yeah, it's certainly got people talking.
It really does. So for anyone who somehow hasn't heard of these guys, the Tate brothers are these, well, how would you even describe them?
I guess infamous is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think that fits. Infamous social media influencers.
Yeah.
Known for, promoting a very particular, and let's be honest, often pretty offensive view of masculinity.
Right.
And it's with all that baggage that they were arrested in Romania back in late 2022 on some incredibly serious charges. We're talking human trafficking, rape, the whole 9 yards.
It's about as serious as it gets. I mean, they're accused of running an organized crime group that was basically exploiting women. And on top of that, Andrew Tate specifically is also facing a separate rape charge.
Right, and it's important to say right off the bat that the Tate brothers, they deny all of this. They claim they're totally innocent, that they're being set up.
Yeah, they've been very vocal about that.
Yeah, it's a very messy situation, a lot of back and forth. So to try and make sense of it all, I think it's helpful to take a step back and look at how all this unfolded. Like, what's the timeline here?
Sure. So, like you said, it all starts with their arrest in late 2022. Fast forward to June 2024, and they're formally indicted in Romania. A court even rules that the trial can go ahead.
So at that point, it seemed like they were definitely going to face trial.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was all looking pretty straightforward. But then things get a bit, well, complicated. A travel ban is imposed, then lifted for a bit, then reinstated. The legal proceedings were going back and forth. Then in December 2024, a Romanian court ruled that procedural errors were preventing the case from immediately going to trial.
But it wasn't completely thrown out, though, right?
Right, exactly. There was a second investigation opened up in August 2024, and that one's actually still ongoing.
Okay, so we've got 2 investigations happening. One's on hold, the other's active. And it's in the middle of all this that the Romanian authorities suddenly decide to change the travel ban.
Yeah, and that's what's really got everyone scratching their heads. It seemed to come completely out of left field.
It did. And what's the official word on why they did it?
Well, that's the thing. Romanian officials haven't exactly been clear. They've said they approve the travel, but they insist the case isn't over, that they expect the brothers to come back to Romania to face the music.
But the Tate's lawyers are telling a different story.
Right. Their lawyer is saying that their release is tied directly to Donald Trump's presidency, even implying that there was some U.S. intervention. He even went so far as to suggest that they feel safe enough now to call America home.
Which is a pretty bold statement. And there was that report, wasn't there, about some U.S. official taking an interest in their case?
There were, yeah. Unconfirmed reports that some official from the Trump administration had talked to Romanian authorities about the Tate brothers. Romania's foreign minister admitted that the conversation happened, but he denied there was any political pressure involved.
And has Trump himself weighed in on any of this?
Trump has denied knowing anything about the case or having anything to do with their release. So yeah, a lot of conflicting stories floating around. And it's really important to note that none of those claims about the U.S. being involved have been proven.
Right. So the Tate brothers touched down in Florida. What happens next?
Well, let's just say they didn't exactly arrive quietly. Andrew Tate went straight to the reporters and said, basically, we've got no criminal record and these accusations are all bogus.
Doubling down, huh? Did they explain why they chose to come to Florida specifically?
Not really, no. And they wouldn't talk about whether Trump played any role in their release either, which, just adds to the whole mystery of it all.
It does. So how did Florida react to these guys showing up on their doorstep?
Not exactly with open arms. Governor DeSantis made it crystal clear they are not welcome in Florida. He's even gone as far as to launch a legal review to figure out if Florida has any jurisdiction over them or what they get up to.
So even if they manage to wriggle out of the charges in Romania, they've still got a whole other set of legal headaches waiting for them in the UK.
Absolutely. A UK court has already ruled that they can seize millions in assets from the Tate brothers because of unpaid taxes.
Oh, wow.
And on top of that, there's an approved extradition request from the UK.
So that means the UK wants them extradited to face those sexual assault allegations from back in 2012 to 2015. But that's on hold for now while the Romanian case plays out.
Exactly. It's a whole legal mess. And in the middle of all this legal wrangling, it's crucial to remember that there are actual people who've been deeply affected by all of this. 4 British women have accused Andrew Tate of sexual abuse in a separate civil case in the UK, and they've spoken out about how his release is bringing up a lot of trauma for them. Their voices and their experiences really shouldn't get lost in all the noise surrounding the Tate brothers and all the media attention they're getting.
Absolutely. It's so important to acknowledge the impact this is having on them. Their allegations are a huge part of this story.
It's a powerful reminder that beyond the headlines and the legal battles, there are real people whose lives have been changed by the actions of the Tate brothers.
It's a lot to take in. It makes you wonder, what does all this mean in the bigger picture? What are the wider implications of this whole story?
Well, I think this case really shines a light on just how much power and reach online personalities like the Tate brothers can have. If we want to truly grasp what's at stake here, we need to delve into the world of online influence, look at how these sometimes fringe ideologies manage to spread and gain traction, and think about how hard it is to hold these powerful individuals accountable in our globalized world.
All right, let's unpack all that in part 2 of our deep dive.
It's crazy to think that these guys, the Tate brothers, managed to get millions of followers, even though they were pushing these really extreme and honestly dangerous views.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? How do these kinds of ideologies, like misogyny and violence against women, how do they spread online like that? And why do they especially seem to resonate with young men?
What's really scary is how they've managed to package these harmful ideas as if they're about self-improvement and success. It's like they're saying if you want to be successful, you have to be this kind of guy. And that can be really appealing to guys who are maybe feeling lost or like they're not good enough.
Right? Like they've created this whole online world where toxic masculinity is the norm. It's even celebrated.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes it so dangerous. When these ideas become normalized like that, when they're amplified in these online communities, it can have a real impact on people's behavior in the real world.
And we are seeing that, right, with the rise of these misogynistic groups online. And, it seems like there's more and more acceptance of violence against women in some corners of the internet.
It's a really disturbing trend. And I think this whole situation with the Tate brothers really highlights how important it is to be aware of this stuff.
Yeah.
And to teach young people, especially, how to think critically about what they're seeing online. To be able to tell the difference between fact and fiction, to recognize harmful ideologies when they see them, and to challenge those ideologies.
And what about the role of social media companies in all of this? I mean, they had to have some responsibility to prevent the spread of this kind of harmful content, right?
Oh, absolutely. They have a duty to stop hate speech and harmful content from spreading, especially when it's targeting vulnerable groups. It's time we really look at how their algorithms might be contributing to the problem. Like, are they designed in a way that actually amplifies these harmful messages? And what are they doing to moderate content effectively?
So let's switch gears for a minute and talk about the legal side of things.
Mm-hmm.
This case has a really complicated international dimension to it, right? It's not just Romania, it's the UK as well.
Yeah, it's a real jurisdictional puzzle with all these different countries and legal systems involved.
So for people who maybe aren't familiar with how extradition works, can you break that down a little? What are the legal stakes here?
Sure. So basically, extradition is a formal process where one country asks another country to hand over a person who's been accused or convicted of a crime. The idea is to make sure they can stand trial or serve their sentence in the country where the crime happened. In this case, the UK has formally requested that Romania extradite the Tate brothers so they can face these sexual assault charges. But for now, that request is on hold until the Romanian case is finished.
So what happens in Romania is going to have a big impact on what happens in the UK then.
Absolutely. If the Tates are convicted in Romania, it'll probably be a lot easier to get them extradited to the UK. But if they're found not guilty, well, that complicates things. The UK authorities would have to really think about their options and decide if their case is strong enough to move forward without the Romanian conviction.
And then there's the whole issue of their wealth and their online fame. It does seem like that's giving them a bit of an advantage in all this, doesn't it?
It's hard to ignore, right? They've been able to hire these high-powered lawyers, and now that the travel ban is lifted, they seem to be able to jet between countries pretty easily. Plus, they've got this huge online platform that they're using to defend themselves and make it look like they're the victims.
It makes you wonder if they're getting special treatment because of their money and their fame. Like, is there one legal system for the rich and famous and another one for everyone else?
It definitely raises some uncomfortable questions about fairness and equal access to justice.
And then on top of all that, there's the political angle to all this. The rumors about the U.S. maybe getting involved, the Tate's lawyer trying to connect their release to Trump's presidency, it adds this whole other layer of complexity.
Yeah, this is where things get really murky. We don't have any hard proof that the U.S. was directly involved, but those reports about a U.S. official taking an interest in the case, they're definitely intriguing, to say the least. What was behind that interest? Does it tie into some bigger picture of international relations, political influence?
And the Tates and their lawyers, they're really pushing this narrative of conspiracy and political maneuvering, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, totally. They're painting this picture of themselves as victims of some global conspiracy, saying they're being silenced by the establishment because they speak their minds. And that kind of story, it can be really powerful. It plays into this distrust of authority that a lot of people already feel.
Especially in the kind of online spaces where the Tates are popular, right?
Yeah, exactly. The Tate's case has become a magnet for conspiracy theories, and those are really hard to debunk.
So where does all this leave us? What are the possible outcomes here, both legally and in terms of how this might affect online culture and political discourse?
Well, legally, the Romanian case is still in progress. We need to, if it actually goes to trial, and if it does, what the verdict will be. And then there's that UK extradition request looming in the background, which could lead to another whole legal battle.
Even if they manage to avoid any serious legal trouble, their reputation has definitely taken a hit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All these allegations, all the media attention, it's tarnished their image. It'll be interesting to see if their influence fades over time because of this.
But their content's still out there, right? It's still circulating online, and that means it could still be influencing people. How do we counter that? How do we stop these harmful ideologies from spreading?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Tate brothers case, what's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away with? What's the most important thing to remember as this story continues to play out?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that we can't just be passive bystanders in this digital age. We all have a responsibility to be critical of the information we consume, to push back against harmful narratives, and to amplify the voices of those who are being marginalized and silenced.
It's a call to action for sure, to be more aware, more discerning, and more engaged in building the kind of world we want to live in, and to recognize that every choice we make, online and offline, it has an impact.
The Tate brothers story, it's a reminder that the fight for truth and justice, it's never really over. It's happening in courtrooms, yeah, but it's also happening online, in our schools, in our homes, and in our own minds.
This case, it raises so many complex questions about online influence, about the spread of harmful ideologies, about due process, accountability, and how to navigate a world that's increasingly full of misinformation. It's a story that's far from over, and we'll be here to help you make sense of it all as it unfolds. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those tough questions.